Armand Simmons for the Los Angeles Times. Since 19 firefighters lost their lives battling a wildfire in central Arizona last week, there has been overwhelming grief, mourning, and several nagging questions. How was this group of experienced firefighters, members of an elite hotshot team, overcome by this wildfire? What were the circumstances leading to their demise, and how exactly did they die? Times Assistant National Editor Steve Padilla has been steering much of the paper's coverage of the Yarnell Hill fire. He joins us today to give us an update on what we know. Welcome, Steve. So tell us first of all, where does the investigation stand? What exactly do we know now?
Well, the investigation is underway. A team of various experts, people who are expert in fire, meteorology, and other disciplines, are going over what happened. And the answer to that question may not be known for some time, because they have to look at ground conditions, they need to look at weather conditions, they need to look at the radio traffic, they have to review what the personnel did, what did the firefighters do, what was happening at headquarters, what was happening in the field. So it may take some time to get an answer. But what is clear is that this is just an extraordinary event. It is one of the deadliest events in the history of fighting wildland fires.
And what have we learned about the circumstances of how these brave men died? How were we able to piece together in our story what occurred?
A team of 5 LA Times reporters and 2 photographers spent the last week reporting very heavily in Arizona. And this much we know. And again, keep in mind that the investigation is not final, but these are some very key points that they've been able to discern. Clearly, weather played some role in this. There was this one point where the winds were blowing to the southwest, and then in a fairly short period of time they started blowing the exact opposite direction to the northeast and doubled in speed up to 26 miles an hour with gusts up to 40, 41. What's interesting about that is there was this very experienced firefighter, a retired fire chief in the area of Yarnell, and he saw the winds, and he said it looked like a tornado. He saw this column, this black column spinning, and he said he'd never seen anything like it. So winds may play a role. We also know that, that this produced tremendous problems with visibility. And this played a role later with an attempt to rescue the helicopters, rescue the firefighters, I should say. Helicopters were dispatched, and they were hoping to drop water on them, and they couldn't see them. So that just didn't work. But most tragically, some dramatic events happened between 4 and 5, mainly concerning the crew chief, I think, Eric Marsh. Eric Marsh was 43 years old, the oldest of the firefighters, could have been the father of some of them. And he was very experienced, an outdoorsman, known for turning down assignments he thought were too dangerous. And apparently he was the one who radioed in to say that they were in trouble. Short time later, he radioed back to say they were deploying their shields, these devices that are kind of like sleeping bags that they get into in the last desperate attempt to survive. He very calmly, and this is the extraordinary thing, officials said that he was exceptionally calm, composed through all this, and in a very calm voice apparently said, "We're deploying," referring to the heat shields.
Right. Now the nation has obviously been gripped by this awful tragedy. I believe it's the worst tragedy since 9/11 with regards to the number of fire personnel lost at one time. Tell us about this particular tragedy and the extent of the impact, the extent of the loss.
Well, they were based in Prescott, Arizona, and this has just devastated the city. 5 of them were local boys. 5 of them were born in Prescott. 2 more spent a good part of their youths in Prescott. And think of these numbers. Of the 19, 10 left behind widows, and there were 11 children left behind, and 3 were engaged. 3 had fiancés. And another 3 of the firefighters were expecting children.
And I understand, Steve, that it's impacted the larger region, obviously. Yarnell has become a memorial, or is it Prescott?
Really, Prescott has, one person we quoted in the paper recently said the town of Prescott has become a memorial. Most striking is the impact, or the almost iconic sense of the word, of the number 19. At this memorial that's sprung up near their fire station, people have left 19 American flags, 19 crosses, 19 water bottles, 19 shovels, 19 teddy bears. Just that number 19 has come up again and again and again. And it's almost hard to imagine someone using that number in any sense and not reflecting on the firefighters.
And just to wrap up, I mean, what's the status of those who have been displaced from their homes, and how do we intend to continue to cover this story?
The residents of Yarnell, the town that was mainly hit, they were allowed to return this morning to see if their homes were still there or not. So that is ongoing. Meanwhile, tomorrow there will be a memorial service for the firefighters. That'll be at 9 a.m. and we'll be covering that, as well as other issues related to firefighters. Unfortunately, it's going to be a long, hot summer, and we'll be covering not just individual blazes, but the larger issues concerning wildfires. And are they getting tougher to fight? Are they becoming more common? Are they getting bigger? And those will be questions we'll be exploring.
Well, thank you so much, Steve, for your insight. This is a terrible tragedy, but a story that we're going to continue to follow. For more on this and other stories, please go to latimes.com.